Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining me today because, wow, we are going to unpack something that's been making absolute waves in personal finance lately. For years, the National Pension System, the NPS, has been this fantastic vehicle for long-term wealth creation and, of course, tax savings. But let's be honest, it had one glaring flaw that frustrated a lot of investors. Well, the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, or PFRDA, has finally listened. They've just rolled out some major rule changes taking effect in 2026 that hit the nail on the head regarding those persistent complaints. We are talking about unlocking some serious, game-changing flexibility here.
Quickly, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The old NPS problem. 2. The massive new 80-20 withdrawal rule. 3. New flexibility and options. 4. What this all means for you. And 5. The risks you absolutely must remember. Let's dive right in. Section 1. The old NPS problem. Now, to really appreciate why these 2026 changes are so monumental, we've got to look back at the rigid structure that kept so many people away in the first place.
If you've ever looked into the NPS, you've probably heard, or maybe even shouted into the void yourself, this exact question. Why is so much of my money locked into an annuity? It was literally the biggest roadblock. I mean, investors loved the tax benefits going in, and they absolutely loved the compounding. But the exit strategy? Honestly, it felt a bit like a trap. The rigid withdrawal rules forced people into annuity products. And let's face it, those are pretty notorious for offering modest returns compared to other investments out there.
Think about how it used to work. Under the old rules, if you are a non-government subscriber, your retirement corpus was chopped up the second you hit the exit. You could only take 60% of your hard-earned money as a lump sum. The rest, a massive 40%, was strictly locked away, mandated by the government to purchase an annuity for pension income. It essentially felt like you were losing control of nearly half your life savings right at the finish line. No wonder people were frustrated.
Moving on to Section 2, the 80-20 withdrawal rule. Let's see how these highly anticipated reforms finally fix this mess.
Okay, look at this new reality. Eligible non-government subscribers now have an 80-20 split. You heard that right. You can withdraw up to 80% of your accumulated corpus as a lump sum at exit. Only 20% needs to be allocated toward that mandatory annuity. They have effectively halved the mandatory lock-in.
Let's ground this with a real-world example so you can actually feel the financial relief here. Imagine your NPS corpus hits, say, 1 crore rupees at retirement. Under the old rules, you'd get 60 lakhs in hand with 40 lakh forcefully tied up. But under these new 2026 rules, you get up to 80 lakh in hand with only 20 lakh tied up. Guys, that is an extra 20 lakh rupees of immediate, liquid capital put firmly back under your direct control.
So why does this massive shift matter so much? Because it frees up your capital. Retirees are no longer forced into those heavy, low-yielding annuities. With that 80% lump sum, you now have the absolute freedom to invest in higher-performing or, just preferred financial instruments of your own choice. You want to move it into mutual funds? Go for it. Fixed deposits, senior citizen savings schemes, a tailored bond portfolio? For the first time, the choice is truly yours.
Section 3. New flexibility and options. You see, the PFRDA didn't just stop at tweaking those withdrawal percentages, they modernized the whole shebang.
A totally crucial part of this modernization revolves around the number 85. Previously, you could generally only stay invested in the NPS up to age 75. But these new reforms, they bumped the maximum continuation age up by a full decade to 85. This is an absolute game changer. If you retire later, or frankly, if you just don't need to tap into that retirement corpus right away, you get an extra 10 years of powerful, tax-free compounding inside the NPS. It's huge.
And wait, there's even more flexibility built in now. They've increased the threshold for full withdrawals, meaning smaller accounts can just bypass the annuity requirement entirely and take 100% of their money. You also get to customize the exact timing of your withdrawals, and you can defer buying your annuity. Plus, and this is super cool, they introduced new systematic payout schemes, like the Retirement Income Scheme. This is fantastic because it lets you receive a regular income stream while the rest of your money stays happily invested in the market, continuing to grow.
Section 4. What it means for you. These structural changes sound amazing on paper, right? But how do they translate to where you are in life right this minute?
The generational impact here is just profound. For young investors, that looming fear of extreme lock-ins drastically reduced. It makes the long-term wealth creation potential of NPS highly attractive from day one. If you're a mid-career investor, you can now breathe easier, having much greater confidence that your hard-earned savings will actually be accessible when you want them. And for retirees, the benefit is immediate. You finally retain personal control over your capital instead of having it compulsorily converted into someone else's product.
Section 5. Risks you must remember. Okay, as much as we love these new changes, they aren't a magic wand. We need to ground our enthusiasm with a little bit of financial realism here.
While the pros are frankly phenomenal, higher lump sums, unmatched flexibility, that amazing 85 limit, you can't forget the persistent risks. The NPS remains a long-term market-linked product. If the market dips right when you plan to withdraw, well, your corpus dips right along with it. Also, you've got to carefully evaluate the tax implications of where you park that 80% lump sum once you take it out. Basically, you have to actively plan now. With great flexibility comes the responsibility of making smart, informed investment choices.
Which brings us to our final thought. For years, investors rightly criticized the NPS for being just way too restrictive. But with these 2026 PFRDA reforms, the biggest friction points have been beautifully resolved. The 80% withdrawal flexibility and that drastically reduced annuity lock-in make this a fundamentally different tool than it was just a few short years ago. So, take a hard look at your portfolio and ask yourself, is it finally time to revisit the NPS for your retirement strategy? Thank you so much for joining me in today's Explainer. Keep learning, keep planning, and I'll put you in the next one.